I am discovering me. Discovering me. My identity was hidden, taken from me, long before my ancestors began hanging from trees. The serpent, he was the real thief, deceiving my sister Eve. He made me forget I was royalty. My father is a king. I am the daughter of the everlasting, loving, omniscient three. He came to give me life. This world wants to take it away. He never intended for it to be this way. Free will, a blessing and a curse. Say my name. My life matters. God said it first. Discovering me. Redefining my identity. Made fearfully and wonderfully, flaws and all, my destiny was altered when I heard his call. I can't see where I'm going, but I know what I'm leaving behind. My faith is blind, lamps at my feet as I shoulder his load. I feel light, I see life as I walk the Samaritan road. Hello everyone, it's Nori here, and today I want to talk to you about Anchor by Spotify. It's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. So Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. The music that you hear on my podcast, when I have to edit people's conversations on my podcast, I do it all on the Anchor app. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. There are about 8 or 10 different places you can post your podcast just using Anchor. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, it's totally free. So if you are interested in starting a podcast, I suggest that you download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. On this episode of Discovering Me, I have the pleasure of speaking with Alisha Carlson, host of the Strong Her Way podcast. Alisha is a wife, a mom, and a coach. She specializes in helping women heal their relationship to food, exercise, their bodies, and themselves, seeing them walk in freedom from diet culture and the diet mindset. Ultimately, so that they can be who God created them to be and do what He has created them to do. Alisha also shares, as we talk about maintaining hope, how the past couple of years she believes God has been showing her how her hope has been in other things besides Him, in circumstances to be a certain way. Alisha shares how God is our ultimate and only hope. When we are anchored to Him and we learn to trust in His goodness and character, we find hope unending. We realize we don't need our circumstances to change before we can be hopeful. We hope in His promises and we ask and wait expectantly. So when you think maintaining hope and what that means to you, what comes to mind?
Yeah, I think when I think about maintaining hope, it's easy to feel hopeful when things look like they're going your way. However, I know, like, as a believer, we're called to hope even when we can't see like the way that things will work out. And so for me, I think a lot of times that maintaining hope really is about persevering, and it's just holding fast to the belief that things are going to work out. And I'm inclined to say, like, things are going to work out the way that we want them to, like, hoping for that. But I think really over these last couple of years, part of the journey that I've been on in my faith walk has been not necessarily just hoping that things work out the way that I want them to, but hoping that things are going to work out the way that God wants them to, if I truly believe that He is who He says He is, and He's good, and He knows what's best for me even when I don't. So I think maintaining hope is just hoping and knowing that God will work. He's working things out for my best even when I can't see it or feel it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's something that I'm also learning. What ways do you feel like in your current, like, either your current circumstance or even something that happened in the past, like, what are some things that you feel like you've learned about maintaining hope in struggles?
Yeah, I feel like these last several years have definitely been kind of a test to that. And I think this was sort of what I was alluding to in the response that I had typed. But um, I think for me, it's really been these last few years of trying so hard to build a successful business or get my business off the ground or to where I want it to be or where I think that it should be. And I think that really one of the things God revealed is that I had been putting my hope like in that thing.
Right.
Like that was kind of where I was finding my identity, finding my worth. Really, like, unbeknownst to me, and maybe this is how it always happens with idols and things like that, is I didn't even realize that I had put that, put my business or put, these business goals kind of in the place of God. And I was really working to serve those things and to make those things happen. And so, as it hasn't worked out on my timeline, which I think is kind of how most things happen,
yes,
you learn. The hope really in that struggle of deferment or like waiting to see these things come to fruition has been bringing me back to not hoping in the things that I want, not putting my hope completely there, but really putting my hope in the Lord. And for me, it has been a big walk of trust of just like, okay, I can say to other people that I believe that you're good. I believe that he was going to work everything out for you and he has a great plan for you. And like he wants, like I could tell other people those things, but I realized that I wasn't really believing that for myself. And so I think, one of the biggest blessings has probably been over these last few years, things not going my way, because it's really allowed me to kind of see where I was worshiping idols or trying to serve, two masters and all of those things that the Bible warns about.
Right.
But really like being grounded in my hope, in my faith, in my trust in the Lord, which we know is unshakable, and not in circumstances like my business or my marriage or the way my kids perform at school or things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that I can definitely relate to that with just, different things that I've dealt with over the last, and I feel like I repeat this a lot, so that's why I'm not really going into full detail on the episode, but the different things that I've gone through in the last 10 months has just been, it's been crazy. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, and learning how to trust God through that has definitely been an obstacle for me, and just really learning what that looks like even, and how to put that into practice, and how to actually make that like a tangible thing. Because I think, just like you were saying, like in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, I trust God. Like he always provides for me. Why would I not trust God? And, and then you get into these situations where it gets really hard and you're like, wait, but like, it's not really going the way that I thought it would. So like, it kind of challenges you, like, do I really trust God? Do I really trust that he's going to take care of me? And okay, well, then how is he going to do it if it doesn't look the way that I want it to, So in building your business, right, and like learning how to trust God in that and maintaining hope that you will eventually get to where you want to be, what are some things that you started doing differently?
Gosh, I mean, really these last few years, I feel like 2020 to me, I feel like the theme was excavation, because life was just kind of on pause in so many ways. I think even just like eventually the stresses of just kind of like not being able to do life and kind of the, the quote unquote, like what was normal for us. In that season, there was definitely some pressing. And I think that was really where God kind of started to excavate the soil of my heart and just like show me what was kind of lurking under there. 2021 really felt like a year of healing. And then 2022, so this year, I'm really feeling like, or I'm sensing the word harvest. And I say that because I feel like this journey of just waiting until things kind of look a certain way or look the way that I think, it really has been about bringing me back to him and inviting him into everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. And I think that this is like, so it's trusting obviously ultimately in him, but I think there was also so much of myself that kind of doubted that what I wanted, what I was working for, the vision that I had, or the dreams or the desires that were in my heart were by default sinful. They were wrong. obviously these are not things God would want me to have. So there was really like this wrestling and this tension.
Right.
And I think over the last 3 years, kind of through this process that he's walked me through, I think it has been showing me that no, like the things that I've put in your heart, the things that you've walked through, like the painful experiences in your past that really contribute to what I do now in my day-to-day work, those have been all a part of his plan, right? The dreams,
Right.
the desires, the visions. He gave those to me. And the Bible even says, right, it's like seek him first and he's gonna give us the desires of
Right.
our heart. And that's not like the magic genie, like, okay, God, you know, I want this, and we just go, you know, rub on our Bible or
Right.
whatever and proof. But it's like when we truly are seeking him first, when he is in his rightful place, then he is going to give us the desires and that vision. And so I think for me, a lot of it has been healing that relationship with him and being able to trust that the things that I want are truly of him.
Right.
And so I think in a way that has kind of helped sustain, you know, help kind of sustain me in this period of waiting, because then I can get excited about the vision that I'm working for, the
Right.
dreams that I'm working for. But if we always feel like there's that tension of like, oh, I'm doing something wrong, or maybe this isn't what I should be doing, then it's really hard to be hopeful in that period of waiting, I think.
Yeah, it's really cool that you said that, because I actually recently did an episode. It's so cool the way that God works, because I did an episode recently where I was talking about how I had all of these desires and things that I wanted to do, but for some reason in my mind, I decided that those things were not going to be the things that glorify God, because I'm supposed to do these things instead. And so I started doing those things and I just wasn't happy. And I just was like, I just feel like I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything, and I'm not like moving forward. And I started to realize through everything that I went through over the last 10 months that, oh, wow, like these desires that are on my heart clearly are coming from God. And I'm just, because I have my own thought process on however God should work, I'm not listening to that. And I'm not being aware that God is trying to guide me in a different direction. And it was like, as soon as I opened up my heart to those thoughts and ideas, it was like, boom, God started making things work, and things just started fitting together in ways that I was like, oh, never thought this could happen. And so it's just really cool that you had a similar experience and felt like you went through a similar thing. I think it's really cool how God is just, I really do feel like you're right with the theme of 2020 and 2021, and just even now is like, God showed us a lot, and he did a lot, like personally, just the world in general, but a lot personally. I know a lot of people that I've spoken to have said like 2020 was just a very revealing year. And then 2021, it was all about, all right, let's change that. Let's fix all of those things that are falling apart. And now here we are in 2022 where things are starting to kind of come to fruition. So that's really cool. I love that, the way you put that. I think that's so true.
I think the hard part is now, right? It's like moving forward from 2020. It's fighting for like fighting to keep those changes that we wanted to make, and not like unintentionally just slipping back into doing things the way that we were pre-pandemic. Right. So yeah, I think it's definitely has been kind of a journey. And, you know, I think that too, just like with the whole desire thing, I think in some ways, like the desires that we have, because we are sinful by nature, like apart from Christ, like I do think that there is kind of that inner working of our hearts that God takes us through. Like he takes us through that refining process and kind of presses us and allows things to happen, or allows it to take longer than what we want, so that he can develop our character and make us into the men or the women that we need to be in order to really carry the responsibility of that desire. And I think, you know, to your point as well, it's really easy. And this was something I got caught up in also, is thinking like, okay, well, how is like fitness and nutrition coaching, or like helping women heal their relationship to themselves and their bodies, like that didn't look like, you know, typical ministry. And so I think there was a lot of like, well, do I need to be like a Christian health coach? Do I need to be like, does this need to be like looking a little bit more like a ministry? And I think even just that, like that doubt, that discouragement, those are definitely tools that the enemy uses to keep us from fulfilling the purpose and the calling that God has placed on us.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that you said that like you realized, like you didn't have to have it say Christian, all over it in order for it to have the same principles behind it. Because I think that that's something that I've often done. I've had a few different like business ideas that I've kind of tried, and like every time I tried to force Christianity in there some way. And it wasn't until recently that I'm realizing like, oh, like it can have all those principles and have all of that in the background without it being out there like blatant in front of everyone's face. And it's just really cool that you recognize that and were able to still do what you felt like you needed to do.
I always think of Chick-fil-A, right? Like that is a very successful, well-known company, and it is Christian based, like they, Christian principles and things like that. And it's a very powerful brand, like
Yep.
people, it's very endearing to people. And I think sometimes, and it's not ever like my intention to like hide my faith,
Right.
but I think that sometimes, especially now, like as the world grows, like increasingly, bitter is not the word I'm thinking of, but hostile to Christians, it's like you might be able to impact somebody in a way that you wouldn't normally, like if you were marketing yourself that way. And of course, like if you're a business owner, like you've got to kind of wrestle that and walk that out with the Lord in terms of like, does he want you to market? Like, is this supposed to be like a Christian business, or is it like a business that is run by a Christian and therefore will be run by biblical principles and standards? And our aim as Christians ought to always be to like take Christ, take the Holy Spirit wherever we go. So
Right, I agree. I think it's about learning how to. It reminds me of the scripture, like to the Jews that became a Jew, and that to Gentiles that became a Gentile. It's like he didn't just, that guy was basically saying like we're not just gonna go out there and just be like I'm a Christian and this is what you need to do and like try to pull people in. Sometimes you have to show people what Christianity is before saying I'm a Christian, because I mean, unfortunately, sometimes it does come with a negative connotation. If people have had a bad experience, they can just label you without even taking the opportunity to understand whether or not you're different, or if you're going to show something different. And I've noticed even with what I'm doing that people, when they talk to me, they're like, "Oh, you're a Christian? I didn't realize that." And I'm like, I don't know how to take that. Like, what does that mean?
You're like, I don't know if that's a compliment.
Right.
I don't know if I need to like work on some things.
Exactly. And so it's just really cool though to see how like people, once they get an understanding of you or an understanding of what your principles are, it's not so much like come to my church or be a Christian or do this, that they're more willing to say, okay, what is this thing that you're doing? Like, this is different. Let me see. You're not just saying you're a Christian. Like, I see that your life is different. So that's really cool.
And I think like to draw it back to the whole hope thing, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a great way to model that for people, is like, where is your hope ultimately?
Right.
Is it in your success? Is it in worldly possessions or accolades or achievements? Or, like for me in the line of work that I do, like, is it in what your body looks like, or is my hope ultimately in God? And therefore that allows me to rest. That allows me to take a different approach to my work, not, feeling like I'm sacrificing between my family and my business, right? It's like, we know if we're doing it God's way and if our hope is ultimately in him, then we don't have to bear the weight of making everything happen on our own shoulders. Right. And I think that's very appealing to a world that tells you a very contrary message.
Yeah, I agree. So tell us a little bit more about your business. I'd like to hear like what you do and just like more about it.
Yeah, so I do a non-diet based life and health coaching. I work primarily with women. And of course, I think, with most coaches, it kind of stems from something that you've kind of overcome or that you've sort of worked through in your past. And for me, I was definitely a chronic dieter, had weight and body image issues for many years. And that really led to a lot of super unhealthy behaviors around food and exercise. My mind and my time and my energy, like so much of it was constantly thinking about my body, my weight, counting calories or macros. I mean, just all of these different things. And I went kind of from the end of being sort of the couch potato and not really caring about myself to the other extreme of stepping on stage and doing figure shows, but both were very unhealthy in different ways. And so what I do now is I take my clients on a journey to ultimately help them heal their relationship to food, exercise, their bodies, and themselves. I think a lot of the issues that we have around food, like the overeating, the emotional eating, under eating, over exercising, the constant obsession with our weight and losing weight, and really trying, again, we're putting our hope, our value, and our identity and our worth in those things. And so it's just helping women really, I think, kind of just change the relationship that they have to themselves. And then all of those other things kind of fall into place. Like a lot of the habits that they feel like they've constantly been fighting with aside. And, so we kind of put weight sort of on the back burner, and we focus a lot more on the lifestyle habits, the behaviors, and then of course the mindset work is a huge part of it as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that. And I'm sure that through that, it also connects to our theme of hope, like, with the women learning how to do that. Because I know for me, so I've struggled with body image a lot over, my entire life. And now I'm pregnant. And thank you. It's been actually very interesting because I thought that it was something that I was done with. I had gotten to a place where I felt like I was at a healthy weight. I was maintaining it, and I liked the way my body looked. And now that I'm pregnant, I'm gaining weight. I'm realizing that some of those thoughts and things are coming back where I just feel like, I don't like the way I look. And I have to keep reminding myself, like, I'm supposed to get bigger. Like, this is okay. This is healthy. But my mind is just, it's like a battle in there. It's like, I'm one shoulder, I'm like, I need to lose weight. I need to be smaller. And the other side, I'm like, okay, no, that doesn't make sense. Like, I have to gain weight in order to have a healthy child. So
it's hard with the amount of pressure that our culture and society puts on women, not only before pregnancy or if you're not pregnant, but also even during, ironically, right? It's like, you have to have just the right amount of weight gain. It needs to be all in the belly.
Exactly.
You have to carry it this certain way. And I actually got the privilege of working with a client. She wasn't pregnant when we started working together, and then she became pregnant. And so it was really cool to walk through a lot of that with her. I mean, she obviously hired me because she was already kind of dealing with some food and body image stuff. And then to be able to kind of walk that out in real time with her was really powerful, I think, because she could see, like, in real time, like, all of these things, these thoughts and things like that kind of creeping up. And then we were able to navigate that so that she could really focus on, okay, what are the behaviors that I need to be engaging in, that I want to be engaging in for me to stay healthy, for baby to stay healthy, and for me to really enjoy this time. Because there's, unfortunately, a lot of women, it's like as soon as they have the baby and they get cleared at that 6-week mark, the pressure is on to get their body back to, pre-baby. And, our bodies can take up to 9 months or an entire year, if not a little bit longer, to fully heal. And so,
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that it's definitely something I'm going to have to, work on and even just change my idea around. So I appreciate everything that you shared, and I really love what you talked about in regards to hope. Is there anything, any sort of advice or any closing remark that you would give in regards to hope and having a business and just how to bring all of that back to God?
Well, I think, the thing that comes to mind is that if you are in a season where it feels like you're just suffering, like the circumstances seem all stacked against you, and you think there is absolutely no way that I could have hope right now, I would just encourage you to really turn your eyes to Jesus, focus on God, because anytime that we feel like we're without hope, it's because we're looking at the circumstances, we're making the circumstances bigger than God. And I know that sounds probably cliche, and believe me, it is so much easier to say than to do. But I think, even just the feeling of hopelessness is a good indicator of that's just that awareness signal of where am I focusing my attention? Like, am I clinging to the promises of God? Am I truly believing his character and who he says he is? Or am I letting, the whispers of my circumstances, the whispers of the enemy, kind of take over? So I think, in terms of that, and then I think, if you are somebody that's running a business or is building a business and you feel like you have these dreams and these desires and this vision, I would say, surrender that to God, like give that over to him and be like, earnestly, like, is this something that you want me to have and to pursue? And if so, then I pray that you wouldn't take the desire away, right? Like, increase my desire for these things, but also show me what it is that you want to do in my heart in pursuit of these. Like, make me the woman that's capable and able to hold this responsibility and give you glory ultimately. And just trust that the process is going to be probably much longer than you wanted, a lot harder than you thought that it would be or should be. But if you really do, I think, commit to doing it with the Lord and seek him first, like, it's going to be the best ride of your life. So
awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. It was such a pleasure to have you on the show. And I look forward to my listeners listening to this episode because I feel like it'll definitely encourage them.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nori.
Of course. Thank you for listening to this episode of Discovering Me. I hope that you are inspired and spurred on toward a deeper connection with God. If you're looking for a church in the Southern Connecticut area, search Southern Connecticut Church of Christ. And don't forget to tune in 2 weeks for a new episode of Discovering Me. And always remember to faithfully pursue a life of passion.